Welcome to There Must Be More, a Bethel, Ottawa podcast. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube at Bethel, Ottawa, and follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify podcasts.
Welcome back, everybody, to our podcast. I'm going to call it your favorite podcast because, I don't know, I just like making wild assumptions.
Because it better be.
Right? So this podcast, if you've never been here before, is called There Must Be More. That's what we believe. We believe that there is more. And what this podcast is us wrestling through all of those human things that we deal with through the truth of Scripture.
Nice. Very good.
And what we really like to do off the bat is witty banter. So...
So here we are.
I don't know if I like that laugh.
It was your arm movement just made me laugh for a minute there.
Oh, okay.
You know.
I mean, that's fair. So tell me, what is new in Sarah Colantonio world?
Yeah.
Not Colantonio. Colantonio.
What is new in my world? I feel like I don't have much going on, if I'm quite honest with you. Feel like, I don't know, it's Wednesday. Here we are.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like,
are you reading a new
boring?
book? Got a new book going on?
Yep. I am reading a book. Yep. I am. It is very good.
You want to expand? We need to change this to banter.
It's called,
we need to change this to banter.
It's called The Covenant of Water.
Oh.
That I'm reading right now.
Okay.
And it was an Oprah Book Club pick.
Is it a life changer?
And so I'm audio listening to it actually.
Okay.
And so far it's really, really good. So I'm actually really excited to dive more into it. But it got really good reviews and stuff. So that's what I'm reading right now.
That's amazing.
Covenant of Water.
That is very quick and witty.
Riveting. What's going on with you?
So I am no longer in an air boot.
That's right. From your broken
Living the
leg.
Dream.
Remember when you broke your leg?
Yeah, no, I do. Definitely remember. Still feeling some of the after effects. I kind of have weird directions on how to deal with this. The doctors basically said, okay, you can start moving out of your air cast as you feel.
As you feel?
Yeah, like literally in my chart, that's what.
They didn't say 4 to 6 weeks?
No.
That's kind of confusing.
I have to go back to them in 4 to 6 weeks, but they're like, just do what you want to do, essentially. So I was like, this is what I want to do. Okay. And I can put weight on it because there's no fracture.
Risky,
you can't see a fracture on the x-ray.
Yeah.
So it's just basically.
So it's not really broken anymore.
Not really.
It's healed.
So I'm not running.
Yeah. Sprinting. You're not running to the altar like a track star a la Justin Bieber?
Definitely not. Definitely not doing that.
Too bad.
So,
okay. Great.
Do you want to get into what we are changing here for today? Like we made a little adjustamento.
Oh, adjustamento. Yes. So if you
explain what happened.
So we filmed this episode already. And our lovely goddess of a producer, Shannon Olson.
That goes to her head.
Shannon, say hi.
Hello.
Was quite confused about what we were saying.
Yeah, after 10 minutes.
Confused is not the right word.
It puts her in a bad light.
No.
Sorry,
I can't put the goddess in a bad light.
I
Rob, how dare you do that?
I just said that the point you're trying to make, it's taking too long to get there, and I'm feeling concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which is
she told us
quite
that
a problem
after,
with us.
Though, after 60
that
minutes.
was 25 minutes into
That's my bad.
I think it was 2 minutes in.
No, it was 25 minutes in.
Okay,
I remember
25
looking at the time stamp and thinking I should stop you.
Here we are on a Wednesday at 11:38, and we are reshooting this. But now we have decided, because of that, Shannon gets a microphone.
She gets a microphone.
She's still behind the camera.
Yeah.
She gets a microphone. So if you hear her coming in and out of conversation, amazing. Yeah. You should be happy because we are. And if you're not, well, sorry.
Yeah, we just kind of think, you know what? This is how we want to do it. We want to try it. Mm-hmm. We're conversational. You go ahead, Shannon.
I probably won't interject a lot, only if I need you guys to clarify a point that I don't think you're clarifying.
Or if we ask you a question. Sometimes I like to ask a question to the producer lady.
Yeah, that's true. You do.
Right.
And you guys can't hear me ever, so that's why.
I can hear you.
They're all going to be like, put her on the screen instead of you, Rob. You just get a microphone and you can talk from back behind the camera.
This is Shannon and I show now.
I know. I understand. I understand what you want. Give the people what they want.
So funny.
Okay, so today we went into a certain topic because me and you sat in my office and talked about this specific thing with, I feel like, deep passion.
Yeah.
Or we feel it deeply or something.
Yeah, feel it deeply.
Yeah.
I don't know if the passion, like when you say deep passion,
yeah,
like,
that's not the right word.
Like that kind of passion.
Yeah.
It was more like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but passion doesn't always have to be rah, 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 rah. I feel deeply about this topic.
Yes, you do. You do.
I think
actually,
it's.
You do.
I think it's vital to a walk with the Lord.
Yeah.
And a walk in freedom.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Right?
I like that. Yep.
Okay. So why don't you tell them?
So we are going to be having a conversation all around forgiveness versus unforgiveness, what that looks like, how that manifests in our life, what the damage is, all the things. And so if I'm being quite frank here on the podcast
Sarah's being frank.
I'm being frank. It's hard for me. Forgiveness is a little bit
getting vulnerable.
It's
right
a little bit difficult for me, but I do it because Jesus asks me to do it, and because I want to have the right posture, the right heart posture when I do forgive people. Unlike Rob, who's actually very, very good at forgiveness.
Well, she thinks that because I tell her that I'm very, very good at forgiveness.
Well, I believe you because you're a truther. You don't tell lies.
Yeah, I try
right?
not. I
like
hope
you
I
don't. No.
I hope I don't tell
so
lies.
if you say something like, I take that at your word because you're good for it.
Just let me tell you that my experience with God is this. He has forgiven me of a lot. He's also given me some kind of almost like a spiritual personality, I guess it were, that is very aware of my own sin.
Yeah.
And then you might be going, oh, that sounds awful. I would hate to walk around just always being conscious of my sin. And it's like, but no.
Not in that kind of way.
No, I don't walk around with guilt. Like I don't.
You're not bogged down by it.
No, right? He makes very aware what's out of my character that he wants for me.
Yeah.
But the thing that I just feel like for me, which is so empowering, is that it helps me to quickly go to him for forgiveness, which means I am in his grace so much, which I have this view of God that is just like warm. Like he is
like a blanket,
hot chocolate fireplace, right? Like a good book. And he just like wraps his arms around and just goes, let's work on this.
Oh my gosh.
Let's just work on this. Right?
I love that picture.
Yeah, me too. So what it ends up, I believe for me is that I am able to recognize what it does for other people when you can forgive.
That's good. Nice. Maybe I need more of that, and then I won't have such a problem with it.
I think we all just have different places.
Yes.
And I think that there's value. And
I forgive people. I don't want this to sound like I don't forgive people.
Tremendous value in the work that needs to sometimes go into forgiveness. I think there's value in that, in creating character.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah, we just come from different places.
Yeah.
It's all good.
It's all good.
So let's talk about forgiveness in the world.
Sure.
Because there's a state of forgiveness in the world.
Yep.
What would you say the state of forgiveness or unforgiveness, however you want to view it, is for I'm not talking church, I'm talking humanity.
Humanity.
What we're being sold
right now in 2024. I'm going to say not good. I'm going to say it's not looking good. It's looking a little grim.
This just in, it ain't looking good, people.
Breaking news, it ain't good out there. I think we are in a society and a culture, like outside of the church, like you said, that really is a little bit eye for eye, a little bit like I'm going to argue until you see my side. I'm not going to listen to you at all. I'm going to like word vomit all over you. And then if you don't agree with me, I hate you. Or you have a different opinion than me, you're a bigot. Or I don't agree with you, so we can't be friends. Or all these things. And so that leaves us in a space of like, I have to have the last word. My character needs to be proven above yours. People need to like me better. People need to... So it's not good. This is not the way that we should be operating, as Christians, but really just as decent human beings, I would say. I think the root of that is a lot of unforgiveness. And because the root of the unforgiveness then is there, and then branches off into like a revenge. And so we want to see the justice, which like, yes, for justice, but there's a way to do that. So
that's a loaded word.
Yeah.
Justice?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so what's justice?
Oh my gosh, don't flip this on me. So there's, oh gosh.
I'm trying to practice my deep listening.
Why did you do this to me? I think when we hear the word justice is like we want like atonement for what was done to us.
Yeah.
That's what.
It's the very eye for an eye, right?
Yeah, it's very eye for an eye. Now, well, of course, we have like biblical justice, but right now we're talking about
Interesting about biblical
society.
justice.
Yeah.
Because eye for an eye comes from the Bible.
Does.
So why don't we follow that? Right? Like,
Gosh.
it's in the Bible. Why don't we follow eye for an eye?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, Jesus came.
So there's that. Kind of a big
So
deal.
there's that, and he kind of flipped everything upside down.
It's kind of
there.
a big deal.
Kind of a big deal. But I think, Jesus, he brought the ultimate forgiveness, obviously. And like, this is such a cliche, like, he died on the cross for us and he brought everything into perfect.
It's not cliche.
Like, for a Christian, I'm saying.
Yeah, but
it's
I think
very, it's like, oh,
I think
the
you need
Christian
to
answer.
sit with that.
Yes.
Like, we don't sit with that. We don't sit with what that means.
With what?
That he came and he gave his life,
Right.
and what that means in the eye for an eye and the atonement and
Yes.
the
And the justice
what is
of it.
just.
Yeah.
What I have received in the forgiveness. So the sin that I know of, right? That I've talked about that relationship with him that I know of, I get grace, which
Yeah.
means that I don't live in that guilty place,
Right.
right? That is not at all what we think of as justice.
Right.
This is
Right.
God's justice, that we weren't even looking for him. And he gave himself as a sacrifice for us. So he put himself in front of the firing squad
Yeah.
for people who didn't even like him,
Yeah. Yep.
right?
Who put him on the cross. Yep.
Would spit on him.
Yep.
Like, so his justice is for me then to find the person that hates me and bless them like crazy
Wow.
while they're still hating me.
Wow.
That's his justice.
Wow.
I don't think we exist there.
No, we absolutely don't exist there
Right.
at all. Wow.
Like it's not just a beautiful act. It is game changing. It's life changing. It's eternal. It's miraculous. Like it is so far beyond our understanding. It's more than we could hope or think or imagine.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a very holy thing for sure.
yeah, and you just think of the problems it would solve.
Wow.
Think of the problems it would solve if nations said, you know what? I do care about you more than my GDP. Or if gross domestic
What's that
product.
mean? Okay. My face.
Money in.
I was like, what does that even mean?
So, okay, let's go to a different place then.
Yeah.
What does that mean for groups of people saying, you know what? Your health and safety is more important than my health and safety.
Sheesh.
So there's just, okay. There's a lot that we're going to have to unpack here.
Yeah.
Because forgiveness is sort of a posture of the heart
Yeah.
that I believe we need to get to. You talked about something which in the last podcast that somehow you avoided here. You're a fan of somebody.
Yes, I
I
am.
wonder, why did you decide to avoid this?
I think I was going there, and then you jumped in and you asked me about justice, and you really threw me because
yeah.
that
So I
wasn't
do
that
that.
wasn't on
Yeah,
our
yeah.
list, and I was like, oh gosh. So yeah, I am a. You're talking about forgiveness and society, like what that looks like.
We're still there.
Okay,
Yeah, we're
so
still there.
I am a Swiftie. Okay, now everybody just relax. Okay, I'm not one of those Swifties who is like gonna beat your door down if you have something bad to say about her. So I'm just a fan. I like her music. I think she's a good time. She does her marketing really well, and the tour is amazing. All these things. Okay, I just like her.
Yep.
And that's my prerogative. Okay, so
Do what you want to do.
something that when you were asking me like this question is Taylor Swift came to mind because Taylor Swift is known for her revenge plots, right? And I'm not talking about like she's writing about her ex-boyfriends and songs because respectfully, I want to know what happened. So I want to hear those things. Like, tell me what Jake Gyllenhaal did to you. Tell me how awful John Mayer was to you.
Dish the tea.
Dish the tea. I will be here. I'm sat and I'm listening. But something about Taylor Swift is she's heavy in the revenge on like, you did wrong to me, so I'm about to I'm taking you by the neck and I'm dragging you.
People love that.
People love that. And like, Do I? Maybe
Honestly?
a little too much, and maybe I gotta talk to God about that. But
There's a reason it's a plot line in a lot of movies.
This is what I'm saying. Like, it brings the drama. It brings everybody's into it. Everyone wants to know what's happening, right? So when you're talking about that, she was the first thing that like popped into my mind, because she's, she had her like Reputation album, and that was her like revenge album, where she was like, I'm gonna say what it is. I'm gonna, throw shade. I'm gonna do this because I want people to recognize, like. I want to have the last word. Right? And so you're talking about the eye for the eye. That's very the eye for the eye.
What do you think the spiritual root in there is? Like, of the being? Do you know what I mean?
No. It didn't make any sense. Whose being?
Hers.
Oh. What do you think the root
of her being
of her
is?
being
Like,
that way
what's
is?
the root cause of the spiritual root cause?
Oh.
So of the being as in like a human root cause of that need to get that revenge and have the last word.
Well, I think in the way we're talking about justice, this is her twisted way of getting justice. Because nobody believes.
Why do you think she needs that justice?
I think she wants that justice because Kanye West like dragged her through the mud for seemingly nothing. And
I guess the root?
And like, well, no, I think insecurity is probably at the root. I think, she's not serving God, so like that's also probably at the root. I think there's a lot of things, but it's that need for justice. When people are done wrong, they want to feel like they were atoned, or people are listening, or they're on their side, right? They want that satisfaction.
It's good.
I think.
I mean, it's not good. It's a good answer.
It makes sense.
It's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I'll just throw in the word pride there.
Sure.
I think that pride
And ego,
is
yeah,
the
for
root
sure.
of many things that
Many
we
things,
do.
yeah.
Many
For
things
sure,
that we do.
I agree, I agree.
And you said that with the insecurity. I think that's just another kind of way of, or an aspect of pride.
Yeah. I am still a fan, though, so.
Yeah, you are. My daughters are all fans. I
We went to the
I don't have an
movies.
expectation.
Yes.
Yeah, my wife is. Did I say I was?
Yep.
Like I'm a dad fan though.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
and I
okay.
literally took my cue from Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a huge that guy
You're like,
fan.
oh, Eddie
He likes him?
Taylor?
All right, I can do it too then.
Yeah.
All right, no.
Yeah.
But
like I said, I'm not one of those like aggressive Swifts. Sometimes they're out of absolute control.
Yeah. So this is turning into the Taylor Swift podcast, and I want to just bring us back to forgiveness. Yeah, so in that we're saying, like, in the world, what we see then is that there's a lot of maybe a twisted sense of justice that looks like revenge that is maybe based out of our insecurities and our pride. That's kind of what we got to with that. And I think that's a safe statement. It doesn't obviously cover
No.
everything. But then, so a part of that is like the pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you got to think it's got to give you a dopamine release when you feel like I got it. Oh, you got done.
Oh, yeah.
You got did. I did it.
I was going to say, especially when you do it. When like, someone like did something wrong to you and you just clap back. It feels great.
So then what's the opposite of that, right? It's like...
The opposite of that is 5 minutes later, after I would say something that I probably shouldn't say, then I feel horrible. Then I have to like repent and go to God about it.
I think that's the consequences. I think the opposite of it is to forgive.
To forgive and not clap back at them.
And get no immediate rush of dopamine.
A dopamine hit.
No immediate chocolate cake, right? Like no immediate anything. Like that is the feeling that we, I swear, want to exist in.
Yes. Yeah, because it feels good.
Cheesecake.
Yeah, cheesecake.
Right? Even saying it.
Yeah,
but that's the same feeling when it comes to like our sense of justice.
Yeah.
Not to say like societal things, like we do have really, really difficult things that are happening in the world.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if we go there this moment or if that takes us too far off of the way we were going.
Yeah.
Okay. So the way that we just said that was very personal and individual.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Like, so like when we're talking about our own sense of justice, I want that. I want to feel that. I want to see Taylor get it because then I can be proud of her. Yeah.
Like you and a person.
That encourage. Anyways. Yeah. But then there's like societal issues that we're dealing with that are significant. And so some of them would be inequity.
Yeah.
We have racism, we have gender inequity, wage gaps. we have poverty and wealth.
Yeah.
And then one, I guess, that we could go to, but maybe should put a trigger warning around would be the situation with the hockey players and sexual assault. So if this would hurt you or anything,
Skip forward.
yeah.
Yeah. About like 2
But
minutes.
it's something that's happening right now.
Yeah.
And it's going to bring about
Feelings.
feelings
Hurt.
and discussions around forgiveness
Yeah.
and what's right and wrong. So I think it's important to talk about.
Yeah.
And then hopefully we can make this clear because
Yeah.
can you maybe,
Yep.
as the female in this duo,
Yes.
talk about the emotions and feelings of, because the feelings of forgiveness and unforgiveness come into your life around this issue.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense. And for sure. So just very briefly, if you don't know what it is, Google it. But Hockey Canada, in 2018 in the World Juniors, there were 5 hockey players who moved on to the NHL. And so 4 of them are currently in the NHL. One of them was not. They have been criminally charged with sexual assault for one female. And so there's one hockey player who was with the woman and then actually called his friends in. And so then it was kind of like a gang rape incident. And so, yes, it brings up a lot of feelings for me, obviously, as a woman.
Yeah.
I think even for you as a man, because you're just like, what's going on? And that's fair. And you asked me, does it bring up the feelings of like unforgiveness, forgiveness? Like, how do I work through that or whatever? I don't know how to work through it, quite frankly. It brings up feelings of like, I have a hard time forgiving because the act is just so vile.
Yes.
Right. Especially towards a woman, because I am a woman. I have friends who have been sexually assaulted. I think, and if you're a woman and listening to this, you probably statistically know one person.
Yeah.
That's
And there's
happened to.
probably something that you could connect with and empathize.
Yes, 100%.
with.
So when I was talking to Rob about this earlier, saying like, how do I separate like the human from the act? Because to me, I hear that, I watch press conferences, all the things, like I'm highly invested, which maybe I need to like take a step back.
I'm
and I
actually
won't
pretty
be so.
invested too.
Yeah. So for me, I clump it all together. I'm like, oh, they're actually horrific because of what they did. Like they're absolutely awful. And what they did is absolutely vile and horrific and criminal. All the things, like obviously that's sin and they shouldn't be doing that. More than just sin. It's like you're taking advantage of somebody and it's just vile. So my struggle is, how do I separate? And so because I don't know these 5 NHL players, nor do I want to see them ever, I don't need to forgive them because they didn't do the act to me. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they didn't do that act to me. I don't know them personally. Like, so it's not like I need to forgive them and they need to like ask forgiveness to me. Right. But then there's like okay, I also can't just like hate them.
Yeah.
And like, I could be disgusted by them, but I can't hate them.
No.
And
you
you're
can't.
disgusted
No, you
by what they
can't.
did.
You can't.
So I think what's hard for me in that situation is there's that, the system is broken. So that plays into like maybe the anger towards it, but the unforgiveness of like, how do I forgive such a vile act?
Yeah. I think
Does that make sense?
It's our producer's going to jump in if we don't make sense here because
Yeah.
this is a very difficult.
It's a big topic and it's nuanced. There's layers and layers to
Yes.
it. Yeah.
So you brought out 2 important things. One is that there's an act and the other is that there's humans. We can never the act of rape or sexual assault, right? And also you're not going to forget, right? Now, there is the other part that you brought out that's really difficult is that like at some point there needs to be some kind of national forgiveness for repentant people or group forgiveness, like, and you have to decide in there what you can, right? So like our prime minister does something horrible. And you would have to decide, I suppose, at some point if you can forgive that person for that in their role.
Right.
But there has to be consequences.
Right.
Because we can never start saying that an atrocious act is okay.
Right.
Right?
Yes. There needs to be consequences. They're criminally charged, right? So there obviously is going to be consequences, but there needs to be consequences for those actions.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah. This is going to not help anybody at all to hate those people forever. But like, to feel a weight, like you have some kind of responsibility to forgive those guys.
Right, yeah.
For all women or something, or even just in your experience, right?
Yeah.
I would point to more possibly that if that triggers something, there's probably value in looking at like what the root is of your life that is triggering. And like it could be just the state of what women are facing. And that's completely fair. Right. But in that, just going like, do I have any obligation at all? Like, because I don't need to take a weight that I don't need to take.
Exactly.
I don't need to.
Exactly.
I'm not responsible.
Exactly.
For being the forgiver of those 5 gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Right? Like
Yep.
it's not. I shouldn't say for those 5 guys.
Yeah.
But the nuance is real. I do want to go to The Crown. Because I do think
the TV show you're watching.
I think it's a good example of like the nuance.
Yeah.
I think that I don't feel like I'm doing a good job of explaining how I feel about this particular humans versus the act thing. It's difficult to forgive an act because an act or an ideology is not a human.
Yeah.
Right? Like we have to always say no, wrong actions or wrong actions.
If something is wrong, you call it
have
out.
to just stay there.
Yep.
It's the human that you need to forgive with hopes that
they're repentant and they could
things can get changed around.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to The Crown and talk about there was an episode where the Queen is faced with the opportunity to allow her uncle to come back into England. Now, he had been kicked out essentially because he abdicated the throne. So he stepped down from his duties as king.
Yep.
Right? Because he loved a woman and they didn't want them to marry.
Yep.
Ended up being like exiled to France, essentially.
Yep.
And he then, because he did that, the Queen is forced at a very young age to step into the role of Queen.
Early
really
20s.
affected her entire life.
Yep.
And her marriage and her family. So she gets put in a position where he wants to come back now to England. And she is in a moment. Do you need to say something?
There's just a contextual thing to add, I think, into that part of the story. He also, at around this time in this episode, it came to light that he had been involved with Nazi Germany in some way.
Okay, yeah.
So I think that's important to mention as well.
Okay, good. Yeah. So what she ends up being faced with in her heart and what she's wrestling through is forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's what she's thinking about.
Right.
No, do I need to forgive him? She gets into a room with Billy Graham and asks him essentially, do I need to forgive? Right? And Billy Graham is like, absolutely. Like you can't not forgive. You have to forgive.
Yeah.
And he's right.
Yes.
But she didn't ask the right question.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because what she was really wondering on a deeper level also is like, do I have to forgive for a nation? Do I have to forgive this act that actually affects, right? Like,
the whole country of England.
Right, like
and
he went with he abandoned our country to be with Nazis. He abandoned his post, like, and this is like bringing him back says something for our country. So it's about that act, right? But between him and her, the conversation would sound individual.
Right.
Do I need to forgive?
Right.
And she's talking on a whole other. She's not asking the right question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And she's saying, do I forgive him and let him come back and do what he was doing before?
Right.
Like, is he back to that position? Does he have that power? Does he have all that thing?
Right. And that's what we end up that's kind of the differentiating factor, I feel. So we think of like the hockey situation. If we're asking the question, do we forgive? There's a difference between who needs to forgive those guys and the act.
Yes.
And so the act is no.
Yeah.
Like we're not okay with that and we're never okay with that.
Yeah.
And so the next person who does it, no.
Yeah. Still not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And that doesn't say what needs to be done on individual levels with humans between you and your heart and another individual, but they're different things.
Right.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's something I was just wrestling through. Of
It's
like,
hard.
this is like, yeah. I was just wrestling through like, what does that have to look like for me? Because every time they like pop up on my news feed, I'm like, does that mean I just like hate them and don't forgive them? And anyways, that's just what I'm wrestling through, if I'm being quite honest. Yeah.
What if we put it into the context of like a pastor who falls?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Do you forgive them and just wipe the slate clean and let them come back to church and lead?
Right. Well, no. They
Right.
don't get their position back. Yeah.
They don't get their position.
They need to prove some kind of repentance.
and even then, they
restoration.
probably need a different position,
Yes.
right? Like
100%.
probably.
Shouldn't be leading over people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a differentiation between what's acceptable and what we are willing to allow,
Yeah.
and that deep work that you need to do as an individual that will benefit you honestly more than it benefits them in forgiveness. And that's something that I think we're going to
Right.
end up talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right. Okay.
So much
if
there.
there's a lot there. So we're talking about forgiveness and kind of the role that it plays in our life and how to we want to have a conversation just about this in general. And so let's talk about the damage of unforgiveness in our life,
Yeah.
right? So if we are harboring unforgiveness for somebody or something or a situation, whatever it may be, what could that look like? What does that manifest as? What's the damage?
Okay.
Is there even any damage?
Yeah. So I do want to talk about the two aspects of this.
Yeah.
Right? The outward forgiveness of others and
Yeah.
the inward forgiveness of self.
Yeah.
Maybe, and we have to
good.
bring this back to the damage.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start on the outward first. Then.
Yep.
What's the damage of not forgiving others? I'll say that one, you are giving other human beings space in your heart and in your mind and in your soul, and then affecting your body. So that whole holistic aspect
Yes.
of loving the Lord your God,
Yep.
you're giving them space rent free. Because when somebody's wronged you, unless they're truly repentant, they're not thinking about you as much as you're thinking about them.
Right. Right.
You're obsessing about them. They're going about their day, doing their things, eating their sandwiches.
Going
That's
to
what
work.
unrepentant people do.
Yeah. Eat their sandwiches.
Eat their
You
sandwich.
eat your sandwich.
Guilt free. So the damage is that you are carrying a weight. It's a significant weight with you everywhere you go.
Right.
Right. And I have seen this in ministry played out in an inability, like the body does keep the score, an inability to receive healing.
Wow.
So that's significant.
Sheesh.
Just quickly in a altar ministry opportunity to pray with somebody. They wanted me to pray for healing for their back, and I don't find myself especially gifted in the area of healing ministry, but I do what I'm asked to do
right.
and believe that God can take care of that.
Yep.
In the moment, I'm praying, and like I just felt like to pray until we experience something. It's not something I would normally do, but I just
Yeah.
felt that. Right? I was like, let's just keep praying, but nothing's. I'm like, is anything better? No, no. Like, and then the Spirit of God dropped something in my soul,
Yeah.
right in there. Said,
Yeah.
ask about forgiveness, and I just did. I said, do you have in any places where you need to forgive? And they said to me, yes, I need to forgive the person who caused this accident. I can't. I was like, oh, wow. I wish I could remember exactly how I worded it to get us to the place where she ended up praying and asking forgiveness of the Lord and forgiving. But it was when that happened that she was healed. And I don't I'm not this guy who goes around
Yeah.
healing everybody.
Healing. Yeah. Gift of healing.
But I
yeah.
definitely know that was a significant part of what she experienced.
Yeah,
there.
wow.
And so
That's powerful.
the damage when we can't forgive others is
Yeah.
so much on the self.
Yeah.
Like it lands on our shoulders and in our heart.
Yeah.
What do you think?
About the personal. I'm sorry. That didn't make any sense. What are words?
I feel like you stopped listening.
No. I was thinking of just how powerful that was, and then you just asked me a question.
What do you think?
No.
What do you think the damage is?
Yes.
When we can't forgive others?
Oh my goodness. Well, listen, a lot of damage. I think we live in a space that is just bitter and full of resentment, and it blocks your relationship with God because you end up then projecting, putting things on God that weren't necessarily his to begin with.
Totally.
And like, I'm like case 101 of this. Like I did this for a long time because I had a lot of bitterness and resentment from something in my life. And I didn't forgive the person for years and years and years.
What's years and years and years?
So I was like, probably like 7 years.
Oh, wow. You carried that 7 years.
Yep. And so I thought like, oh yeah, like I'm over it. Like I forgave the person, and then something would pop up and then I would just be like mad again, and resentment would come in and bitterness would come in. And so there's a difference. Like you're still allowed to be upset about something.
Oh yeah.
Like just because you're upset doesn't mean you didn't like fulfill the forgiveness. But for me personally, I would just feel this like rage pit in my stomach, and I would just be so angry at the person, even though they're just like standing over there.
Eating their sandwich.
Eating their sandwich, like they often do. So I had to wrestle through that and learn to like forgive for myself because it was affecting me. It wasn't affecting them. That person was fine. And this is a person who's like close to me. Like I still see them all the time. Like I love them. Like we're cool. But at the time, something big happened, and I didn't get any apology. I didn't get quote unquote closure because they didn't see it. Right. So I had to be like, okay, I'm responsible for my own forgiveness. So the damage of those years that it cost me was like, I pulled away from my relationship with God. Like I didn't fully trust him because I felt like he didn't avenge me. Right. It sounds really dramatic now, but it's just like, it's so true. I'm like, God, like you better avenge me and you better show them what they did that was wrong. But it's like, well, what did I do that was wrong maybe? Or, right? So there's layers to it. But it definitely, it causes damage. It does.
Yeah. 7 years. Can I ask questions about that 7 years?
Yep.
Was there a moment where you went, oh, I need to forgive? Like, was there a...
I think so.
Can you share it?
Yep. We were at like a function, like just a family function. And we were like all around at like a dinner table. And this person was like saying something. I remember sitting in my seat and being like, I can't flippin' stand this person. And this person is very close to me.
Are you a believer at this point, sorry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And I was just like, anything that comes out of this person's mouth, I just want to like fight. Like, I just want to throw hands all the time. And like, they weren't even talking to me. They were talking to somebody else. And I'm just like, I could throw hands right now. So anger is clearly a problem that I have when I have bitterness and unforgiveness.
A lot of people.
Right?
Yeah.
But then I was like sitting there, I was just like eating my food, like mad. And God was like, yeah, you need to like get together. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, eating my food.
Not a
And
sandwich.
then, yeah. And I just felt God say to me, like, it's time to like move on because this is really dragging on now. Like, I really felt him say like, this is dragging on. Like, it's time to give it up. Basically, like, give it up. So I did. And I like brought it to God. And then honestly, like a weight was like lifted. And then every time since I've seen that person, I'm just like, what's up, girl? Like, it's fine.
No, that's right. Wow. The weight being lifted is significant. Like, what damage are we causing?
Yeah.
It's just so weird.
And I didn't realize I was carrying this weight around the whole time.
We don't.
Right?
We
You don't
know
realize
the weights we
it
carry.
until it's gone. And you're like, oh my gosh.
Same
like,
thing with just sin in general.
Yeah.
Especially sin that remains in the dark.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
There's unaware sin that we just don't know. And we need to pray and have God show us. Then there's stuff we're afraid to bring to the light.
Yep.
Those are weights.
Yes.
But like unforgiveness is like one that I feel like we can really be unaware of. And it also just puts a weight on
It affects everything. Yeah.
everything.
Yep.
Like your physical health, your mental health.
Yes. Yeah.
Your whole story. Like it
Yeah.
could affect your confidence. It
Yeah.
can affect how you decide to go about what you're going to do in life.
Yeah.
Like
And also there was like 7 years for what? For what?
7 years.
Like 7 years for what? Like
So-
it seems so silly.
I just want to challenge that though.
Yeah.
In that, because something you had said earlier was it's not necessarily easy for you.
Yeah.
But then God took you through a process. And so for what? So that you can learn
Yeah.
like
It's true.
on a deeper level
Yeah.
the power of forgiveness.
Yeah, and what that looks like.
Because it was 7 years,
Yeah.
you now have a capacity to say, look at how much of your life it can take over. Mm-hmm. Look at
Without even realizing it.
right?
Yeah.
But then look how difficult and easy at the same time it can be to forgive. And
Yes.
and what that does.
Yeah. Yeah, it's both and.
Like, so you have a different wisdom in you because 7 years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we don't want to do that over and over again.
No. We haven't since, so hey.
But did you learn
Progress.
from it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess we both say the damage is very much internal. That's probably where the greatest damage is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say that the damage of not being able to forgive others is what it does to the gospel.
Yeah.
And that's probably, no offense to everybody, but the gospel's more important than you.
Yeah.
So
You're not wrong.
I know nobody likes me
You are
now.
not
They're like,
wrong.
oh, that guy's such
No,
a
100%.
that guy's a jerk.
100%. You're not.
But what Jesus did, who he is, it creates in people a wrong thought
Yeah.
and a wrong view.
Yeah.
In the way, like, think about, those discussions where you have like people who have had abusive fathers, how do they view God the Father?
Yeah.
And it's so similar when it's like, well, look at the people of God who seem to hate each other and can't forgive each other with the amount that they've been forgiven by their God. And they might start doing this kind of thing, their God who forgives them.
Yep, so damaging.
That gospel thing is not true.
Yeah. Wow. It's really sad too when you think about that, because we obviously, like, we know what the gospel says and we have to follow that. So I think even when it's like Christian to another Christian, when there's so much unforgiveness, it's so sad to me, because like you said, like we're like poisoning the gospel, right?
I said that in the other episode. I think I didn't say it in this
Oh,
one.
really? Well, it's
The one
poison.
that didn't make the cut.
Okay, and like it's poisoning the gospel, and we, the church, are his bride. So really, then that bride is now diluted, and no one's going to take that serious. And not that they're supposed to take us serious; they have to take God serious. But we are representing God, right? So when they see that, why would they want anything to do with this kind of God?
Absolutely.
Right? Was what you were saying. So I
We're
just
declaring,
agree. I agree with that.
No, and you took it to a nice place. Weird way to say that. You took it to an important place. We are people who declare that God is alive in us. We declare that he leads and guides us. We declare that our motives come from him.
Right.
And then we look nothing like him.
Yeah.
And we can't forgive when, like, he forgave us when we weren't even asking for it.
Right.
So we want redemption before we before we're willing to forgive. That wasn't our God.
And it don't work like that.
That wasn't our God.
Yeah.
He came and did everything
Yeah.
when we were still spitting on him and hating
Yeah.
him.
Wow. Yeah.
I think I wish I could express in words, I wish I could convey the emotion across the internet through YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
The empowerment that comes with forgiveness. And it's not a selfish empowerment, but it is a freedom. It's a freedom to know that, like, that can't get me. That's not going to defeat me.
Right.
That thing that happened to me is terrible.
Yeah.
We got to fight that thing.
Yeah.
But that's not going to beat me. I actually can take back that power. Like, it's one thing that I know about Jesus is he showed us how to speak truth to power.
Yeah.
It's one of those phrases that we love out there. Speak truth to power.
Yeah.
And for us, speak truth to power can be get in the comment section and yell. Speak truth to power.
Yeah.
Jesus' truth.
don't do that.
Jesus' truth to power is no matter what you do to me, you don't win. And what looks like a win to you, that's not a win.
It's not a win. Yeah.
Like his truth to power might not feel like you're eating cheesecake, but it is so empowering.
Yeah.
Like the freedom you live in when you know that no matter what you go through in life, he is going to give you more than you need to get through it.
Yeah.
It takes away all fear of what you will walk into. Right? So there could be somebody right now who's like, I'm so scared to go into ministry because of the way that people are reacting to church.
Yeah.
But like, if you're a person who just lives truly in his forgiveness, like that thing I like to say, live like you're forgiven. You actually live like you're forgiven. Those things don't scare you.
Right.
Because they can't control you. And I think that forgiveness strengthens that. Like it's that, it's that muscle.
Yeah.
It helps.
100%. What would you say to people who are listening to this, who are waiting to extend maybe forgiveness to somebody until they ask for it? Are we supposed to wait for someone to like say sorry and then give forgiveness? Do we wait it out? Is it instant? Like, what do you think? What would they do?
My first thing would be to ask you if you told them.
Yes.
What's happened.
Right.
Right?
Yep. If you're upset about something.
First of all, if you're waiting for somebody to realize their sin,
good
luck. Good luck. Right? Like people can be very self-absorbed.
Yeah.
And not thinking about things that they've done wrong.
Yeah.
So I would say first, make sure that you've told them that you feel like you've been wronged.
Yes, absolutely.
And then beyond that, you're kind of done. Like you need to give them the opportunity to recognize that what they did was wrong.
Yeah.
And then you can't force somebody to have a heart of repentance.
No, that's the tricky part.
You still forgive.
Yes. Yeah, I've heard it this way, like an analogy was like if you and another person have like a knife fight, right? And then they cut you, like, do you wait for them to come and bring the Band-Aid and then wrap you up? Or do you like stare down and see you're bleeding out and you do it yourself, right? So it's that they're not always going to apologize to you first.
No.
And like even in my situation that I was sharing earlier, it's like that person has never apologized to me, and I don't think only God can do it. But with only God is that person going to like apologize or acknowledge what was happening in that season, right? And so I can't wait for that person. Otherwise, it would be like, 12, 15 years going on that I still wouldn't have forgiven them. At least 7, right? So I had to bandage my own wound, right? And do the forgiveness myself, even without them being repentant or sorry or sorrowful or anything like that.
Yeah.
Is that a word? Sorrowful.
Yeah.
Full of
sorrowful.
Sorrowful.
Yeah, regretful, sorrowful.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just recognize too that it's like it's a deep spiritual work you're doing in yourself, and you are actually building yourself up in that. When you do it, when you take the courage it takes to forgive.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
I think that is something we have to recognize. It takes so much more to forgive than it does to get revenge.
100%.
Like,
it's easy to get revenge. It's easy to clap back at somebody, say something mean, make them feel bad because they made you feel bad. But there's no like longevity in your healing that way. The only way you're going to get long-lasting healing is through forgiveness.
Yeah, and I'd argue that you're not healing at all. You're pouring salt in a wound, or you're just making it worse.
Yeah, 100%.
So, okay, that was damage going out. If we can't forgive others, and we didn't even touch yet on forgiving ourselves.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the first posture is to take. Like, because there's always that language, right? Like, and so love is a good example of where that language. You can't love others until you love yourself.
Right.
I think that maybe we use that too much.
Yeah.
I think
we use it a little too loosely.
Yeah. Like, I think that it helps you to love yourself when you love others, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg. But back to forgiveness, like which is more important, to be able to forgive yourself first or to forgive others? What I will say is that God has given me the statement, live like you're forgiven. And I don't think we talked about it here, how I came to change that in my email. No. But there was one day where I was sending out emails and Pastor Sarah noted that I put blessings at the end of my email and rebuked that in the name of Jesus and said, you sound a lot like a boomer.
I didn't rebuke the blessings. I rebuked that you sounded like a boomer.
Yeah.
In your email.
Yeah.
Please have all the blessings, people.
Yeah. So she rebuked
You just sound a little old. Like it's a little old school for you to be like, blessings.
She rebuked my boomeriness, which is right because I'm not even close to being a boomer.
I was really helping you out.
I'm a Gen Xer.
That's right. Yeah.
So then I felt ashamed. And
cried under his desk for hours.
I actually think it was really good. I think it was really good because I decided to change it to something that God has put into my heart, and it has been there for a while. And I think I say it every single time I preach, and it's live like you're forgiven. Mm-hmm. I think that the power of that is real. I think that if we live like we're forgiven people, there's no other opportunity but to extend the same grace we've been given. And I mean, Scripture talks about that. Yeah. The one who's forgiven the most will, forgive so much, or love the one who's loved the most, the one who forgives the most. All of that is just out of that fullness.
Right.
Is how we act and how we live. So I think it's really important to let Jesus have done the work he's done for you. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of a weird way to put it. He did something for you.
Yeah.
So you're not the most atrocious. You're not the most sinful. You're not the most
unworthy.
Oh, you're just not that important. You're not unforgivable.
No.
I hope you can change your, for some people, I hope you can change the view of what his correction looks like. Because if he's corrected you and you've taken that to Jesus and you've said, please forgive me, Lord, live in it.
Yeah, like it's done.
Adopt it.
Yeah.
Adopt it as your character.
Yeah.
You're forgiven.
Yeah.
This is who I am.
And you get to live in that freedom.
It's such a beautiful, empowering freedom.
It is. It is.
So I think it's really helpful to start, probably, I guess I would say. If you're struggling to forgive others, maybe look inward and go, is there things I need to forgive in myself?
Yeah.
Which simply means accepting that he's forgiven you.
Yeah.
So if it's you did something when you were 16, you're probably not going to forget it. Okay? But that's not who you are.
Right.
And he doesn't look at you that way.
Right.
And you're forgiven.
Yeah.
So stop beating yourself up.
Yeah.
You're not going to get yourself more forgiven. Right. It's just not possible to do.
Yeah.
All you're going to do is give yourself scars. You're gonna hurt that healing process. Like you have to be able to, I believe, just go, yeah, I did it. Man, I'm forgiven. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, it's
you
good.
Go out from there, then it's healing for everybody, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
So I guess I took the internal and talked about the healing in it and not maybe the damage, but like I think it's really important to forgive oneself.
Yeah, I agree 100%. 100%. Okay, so then what do we need to do? How do we live out this forgiveness? Because we have it, we receive it. So then how do we live out forgiveness to others and to self? Like on a daily, how do we live it out?
I'll flip it on you because I just talked a lot.
Okay.
You just did a really good job to keep us on track. So what
welcome.
that can tend to do is make me answer all the questions. And,
right. Okay, so
how have you been living it out in your situation after 7 years?
Oh gosh. So it's still tricky. Like it doesn't always necessarily become easier. Like it does, but it doesn't sometimes. And so something for me is I had to create boundaries. And so like we were talking about like, oh, do you forgive and then just forget? And you were saying like, you don't forget. Like if something was done to you, you remember that. Or if you did something to somebody, you remember. So I'm living in forgiveness over that situation. But that means I have to set boundaries. So for me, that would look like, I'm not talking about that season or that incident with that person because it will just make me upset because they're still not seeing their part in it and it makes me upset. So I use my wisdom to not enter into that conversation because it just won't end well because it just won't.
And your wisdom that God gives you.
Yes, exactly. for me, that looks like I understand that they have their own things to deal with God. Mm-hmm. So I understand, like, it's not my business if she never admits to whatever, or they never admit to whatever.
And you can't control it.
And I can't control, that's between that person and God. Mm-hmm. I'm not the judge of that.
No.
And it's not my job. And sometimes it looks like there's an elephant in the room, or it feels like there's like an elephant in the room, and you have to kind of like, I'm really good at sitting beside the elephant. I used to avoid the elephant and like run away from the elephant. I'm really good now at like sitting next to the elephant at the table.
I think you just say so many powerful, relevant points to forgiveness. And maybe I can draw them out of you a bit. If I ask you the question, what do you think, from what you've said, is the wrong think that maybe we've taught in Christian circles around forgiveness?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Because I think a few of those things came out in what you said.
Yeah. So first off, I think, I think the boundaries. So I think when I was growing up, I was taught to, you forgive 70 times 70, and you have to love everybody, and you forgive everybody, and you turn the other cheek. And so to me, that translated as a preteen that, I have to forgive you and give you all the space back up in my life that you took before. No, absolutely not. And that's not what Jesus intended, I don't think.
No.
Can't speak for him. But so to me, I had to unlearn that.
Yeah.
So before, honestly, when I was like a teenager, if I got in a fight with my friend and they did something that was harmful or whatever, I would forgive them and then let them be like my best friend again. And then the same thing would happen. And I'm like, what the heck? This is the cycle.
We're in a loop.
Well, yeah. So I had to learn that it's okay to put boundaries. Like, and not boundary, like I'm not mean to the person. I see the person all the time. Like, it's no big deal now. But boundaries is important, and I don't have to forgive and let you take all the space that you had before.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the important part in there, and there's a few things. I think that the wrong think we have is that if we do anything to protect ourselves, that we haven't forgiven.
Yes.
If we feel any emotions around it.
If we feel uncomfortable, you still get upset about it.
You're talking about sitting beside an elephant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's work.
Yes.
Like, you're not just free. Like, this isn't it's not a cure for the situation.
No.
Right?
That's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
It doesn't cure it. It's still there.
No, it's all about your heart. Forgiveness ends up being all about your heart.
Yeah.
It's going to ask more, probably.
Yeah, it does. I'll tell you.
But the thing is that it equips you to do more.
Yeah. And do you know what the thing about forgiveness too is? It makes you feel like you always have to be the bigger person, which you do.
Yeah, you do.
You do.
Yeah.
And I hated that growing up. And I used to like say to my dad all the time, I hate being the bigger person. This is the worst. And he was like, yeah, but like Jesus is asking you to do that. And I'll be like, well, I'm not doing it. And he was like, okay, that's up to you. But like, you have to be the bigger person.
Yeah.
And I would get so mad because he was like, just do it. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Anyways, but you have to be the bigger person.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that means you sit beside the elephant while the other person has no idea that the elephant's in the room.
Yep.
Yeah.
So these things that we end up going through that are still hard do not equal unforgiveness.
Don't equal Yes. I think that's so important because you're allowed to feel a type of way about something and still offer your forgiveness and still be like, I'm cool. Like it doesn't affect me anymore. But if I'm in the room or something triggers a situation and you kind of get that like funny feeling in your stomach or that like, that doesn't mean like, oh no, oh God, I thought I forgave him already. It's like, you did, but you're still allowed to feel uncomfortable.
Sure. I think that the key indicator is what you wish on them.
Yes.
Like, are you pouring blessings on them or curses?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's a hard thing. And you know it.
Yeah.
You know it if you're there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do I hate this person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And you kind of said it. You're like, when this person started talking, I just want to be like attack.
Literally. Yeah. I don't do that anymore. So,
yeah.
Hey.
No, I'm glad because you could probably do that a little bit.
No.
Yeah. Oh man. No. The correcting of some of our wrong thinking, I think it's not to like make statements about the past and like how awful people handled things. We're just people trying to go through and figure these things out.
Yep.
I think as we go and as we have these discussions that we can either have a mentality of soldier on or we can have a mentality of maybe there's a better way.
Yeah.
I think when Jesus came, he was very much, there's a better way.
There's a better way here,
There's
guys.
a better way. Yeah. And so the forgiveness very much is healing for me. Whether the person repents or not, it ends up being healing for them.
Yeah.
Because it's a testimony to them
Yeah.
of the Jesus I follow.
Yeah.
And then to the world. Like
Yeah.
it is the gospel in action
Yeah.
is forgiveness.
Yeah.
So if you're struggling with forgiveness, I would just say sit with God in it. It's going to hurt. And I'm sorry. Like I really am. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it might be even digging up
Hard.
old fossils
Yeah.
that you didn't want to dig up.
Or that you thought you already did.
Right?
Because that also sucks.
Right?
You're
yeah.
like, I thought I dealt with this.
Yeah, I thought I
Nope.
thought I won this victory.
Yeah.
But the thing that I know is that he will give you what you need.
Yeah.
You will grow closer to him.
Yep.
You will trust him more.
Yep.
And you will, I'm not saying you're in control of who you become in that, because God's the one who kind of gives you, but in an essence,
Yeah.
you are the one who holds that power.
You hold the key to your freedom
Right?
with your forgiveness.
It's not somebody else. It's not
Yes.
somebody else holding the key.
Yep.
You know it's
You
Jesus
are-
and you're
yep.
going,
Yep.
you're going,
You have that key.
I'm empowered to be free of all
Yeah.
of this.
Yep.
It's
And there's so much hope in that. And
so
joy.
healing.
And
So
like you
healing.
said, freedom.
Yep.
It's worth it.
Yep.
It feels like maybe it's not. Yeah, I'm telling you it is.
So try and recognize. Try
Yeah.
and recognize when the world's telling you to do something else. Right?
Yeah.
And just call that out for what it is.
Yeah.
And we don't hate the people who think differently.
Yeah.
And we pray
No.
blessings on them all.
Yep.
But yeah, if I could pray for you, it would be that you would experience the real freedom that is in forgiveness. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Any last things that we should talk about? How long have we gone, producer lady?
Got an hour.
Oh wow, we done good with time.
Did
Do
you
need
guys
to say
have
anything?
did you have no, very good conversation. Did you have a scripture?
We do have a
Yep.
scripture,
Okay,
yeah.
do.
And you're going to read it.
Sure. Okay, we are going to leave you with this scripture. And so I think this is actually great because you can use this to meditate and ask God, where is there any kind of unforgiveness in my heart or a situation or a person or whatever it may be? So our scripture is from Matthew 6, verse 15. We sure love Matthew around these parts, don't we?
Matthew.
Sure love
Anything
Matthew
with
around
Jesus
here.
in it?
Yeah.
Sold.
Same. Okay, and it says, but if you refuse to forgive others, your Father will not forgive your sins. Yee.
Listen, don't take that as him waving his finger at you or
Yeah,
wagging
yeah.
his finger at you. Take that as the seriousness of how God understands forgiveness to be. I mean, he understands it to be so important that he just sent Jesus to do it for us.
Yeah.
And for us to not forgive really is it's like spitting in the face of the gospel.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
a
telling him
disservice.
that
It's a
that
disservice to Jesus.
what you
Yeah.
did wasn't that important.
Yep. Not worth it. Yeah. And it was. And we love the guy
Very much
around. We
was.
love the guy around here.
Yes, we
Yeah, we
do.
do.
Okay,
Yes,
you
we
kill it
do.
closing.
Yes.
I want you to do all the things, talk about all the places to go.
All right.
How
well,
much we love everyone.
Yes, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. And we want to keep the conversation going. So if you have something to add into this conversation about forgiveness, or maybe, you have an opinion that you would like to share, go ahead and do that in a loving manner, please. And share this with a friend. Remember to like and subscribe to our Spotify podcast, the Apple podcast. If you're watching on the Bethel YouTube page, what's up? Thank you so much for doing that. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. And of course, you need to be following us on our Instagram page. There must be more podcasts because we post recaps and resources and all the things for you there. And it's another place where we can get the conversation going. So we thank you and we love you. And maybe just go forgive somebody today.
Boom.
Yeah.
All right, love you guys. Bye. Thank you for listening to There Must Be More podcast, a production of Bethel, Ottawa. You can catch us on YouTube, where we would love it if you liked and subscribed. You can also catch us on Apple Podcast and Spotify.